Asexual reproduction. Process of formation of new organism by an organism of same species without involvement of gametes is called as asexual reproduction. As this reproduction does not involve union of two different gametes, the new organism has exact genetic similarity with the reproducing organism. This is uniparental reproduction and it occurs by mitotic cell division. Absence of genetic recombination is a drawback, whereas fast process is advance of this reproductive method. Asexual reproduction in unicellular organisms. Binary fission. Try this. Activity 1. Take a conical flask and collect the water in it from a pond having stagnant water and aquatic plants. Add some wheat grains and aquatic plants to it. Keep it for 3 to 4 days so that wheat grains and plants will decompose. Early in the morning on 4th day, take a glass slide and put a drop of that water over it. Carefully put a cover slip on that drop and observe under compound microscope. You will be able to see many paramecia performing the binary fission. Prokaryotes, bacteria, protists, amoeba, paramoecium, euglena, etc. and eukaryotic cell organelle like mitochondria and chloroplasts perform asexual reproduction by binary fission. In this process, the parent cell divides to form two similar daughter cells. Binary fission occurs either by mitosis or amitosis. Axis of fission division is different in different protists. Example, amoeba divides in any plane due to lack of specific shape. Hence, it is called as simple binary fission. Paramoecium divides by transverse binary fission, whereas euglena by longitudinal binary fission. Binary fission is usually performed by living organisms during favorable conditions, that is, availability of abundant food material. Multiple fission. Asexual reproduction by multiple fission is performed by amoeba and other similar protists. Amoeba stops the formation of pseudopodia and thereby movements whenever there is lack of food or any other type of adverse condition. It becomes rounded and forms protective covering around plasma membrane. Such encysted amoeba or any other protist is called as cyst. Many nuclei are formed by repeated nuclear divisions in the cyst. It is followed by cytoplasmic division and thus many amoebulae are formed. They remain encysted till there are adverse conditions. Cyst breaks open on arrival of favorable conditions and many amoebulae are released. Use your brain power. Does the parent cell exist after asexual reproduction fission? Answer. The parent cell does not exist after asexual reproduction fission because in fission, the parent cell divides into two. This nucleus and cytoplasm both are divided. Thus, parent cell does not exist any longer. It is converted in new cells. Budding. Activity 2. Bring the active dry yeast powder from market. Take 50 ml lukewarm water in a conical flask. Add 5 gram of active dry yeast powder and 10 gram table sugar to that water and mix well the mixture. Keep the flask in warm place and after an hour, take a drop of that mixture on a clean glass slide. Put a cover glass on that drop and observe it under the compound microscope. You will see the yeast cells performing budding, that is, a small bud coming out of many parent cells. Asexual reproduction occurs by budding in yeast, a unicellular fungus. Yeast cell produces two daughter nuclei by mitotic division, so as to reproduce by budding. This yeast cell is called as parent cell. A small bulge appears on the surface of parent cell. This bulge is actually a bud. One of the two daughter nuclei enters this bud. After sufficient growth, bud separates from the parent cell and starts to live independently as a daughter yeast cell. Asexual reproduction in multicellular organisms. Fragmentation. This type of asexual reproduction occurs in multicellular organisms. In this type of reproduction, the body of parent organism breaks up into many fragments and each fragment starts to live as an independent new organism. This type of reproduction occurs in algae like Spirogyra and sponges like Cycon. Whenever there is plenty of water and nutrients are available to Spirogyra, its filaments grow up very fast and break up into many small fragments. Each fragment starts to live independently as a new Spirogyra fiber. If the body of Cycon breaks up accidentally into many fragments, each fragment develops into new Cycon. Regeneration. You may know that the wall lizard breaks up and discards some part of its tail in emergency. Discarded part is regenerated after a period. This is an example of limited regeneration. However, under certain situations, an animal, Planaria, breaks up its body into two parts and thereafter each part regenerates remaining part of the body, and thus two new Planaria are formed. This is called as regeneration. Budding. In case of Hydra, under favorable conditions, at specific part of its body, an outgrowth is formed by repeated divisions of regenerative cells of body wall. This outgrowth is called as bud. Bud grows up progressively and finally forms a small hydra. Dermal layers and digestive cavity of the budding hydra are in continuity with those of parent hydra. Parent hydra supplies nutrition to the budding hydra. Budding hydra separates from parent hydra and starts to lead an independent life when it grows up and becomes able to lead an independent life. Vegetative propagation. Reproduction in plants with the help of vegetative parts like root, stem, leaf and bud is called as vegetative reproduction. Vegetative propagation in potatoes is performed with the help of eyes present on tuber, whereas in bryophyllum it is performed with the help of buds present on leaf margin. In case of plants like sugarcane and grasses, vegetative propagation occurs with the help of buds present on nodes. Plants like carrot and radish perform vegetative propagation with the help of roots. Spore formation. Try this. Take a piece of wet bread or bhakri and keep it in humid place. Fungus will grow on it within 2 to 3 days. Observe the fungus under compound microscope and draw its diagram. Fungi like mucor have filamentous body. They have sporangia. Once the spores are formed, sporangia burst and spores are released. Spores germinate in moist and warm place and new fungal colony is formed.